Decisions are made by those who show up. An iconic line from President Bartlett in The West Wing. Now, I'm a complete West Wing nut. But what is showing up? It's showing up for ourselves, for others, and believing in our worth. Now, I've been showing up for years as someone with a really confident exterior, who knows what they're good at, who doesn't take any nonsense, and believes in herself. And I still am that today. I'm the youngest of 3 sisters, the fixer of the family. I like problems, I like solving them, and I'm the one that would get sent into battle if something controversial needed to be said. The confident one. And I still am that today. But there's an end to the sentence that I never really pondered on. Unless I think you're more senior. There was a moment when this realization dawned on me, at a time when my interaction with senior leaders on a peer-to-peer basis was under significant scrutiny. I was deferring to those that I believed were more senior. I was being quiet. I was letting the conversation flow past me. I wasn't using my voice that was frankly so loud in so many other situations. I stopped showing up. Now, this was a really uncomfortable realization for me. And I had to understand what was the root of it. I knew I always had an overtuned sense of deference, cultivated through childhood, respect for elders, respect for those in authority, respect for teachers. And I thought that was at the root of it. But actually, through a couple of conversations with people that I really respect and admire, we realized there was something more at play. As children, we all seek our parents' approval. It's a fundamental aspect of our development. But what happens when that need for approval flows over into our adult and our professional life? I felt that the deference was the root of that, but actually, I needed to understand what was driving that behavior. Now, aside from The West Wing, I'm a massive Beyoncé fan. Now, who isn't? And in Beyoncé's song, Pretty Hurts, there's an image of her with all these trophies behind her, demonstrating the success that she has achieved. And in that song, you're haunted by her sense of unhappiness. And she sings in that song, "Perfection is a disease of the nation. You can't fix what you can't see. It's the soul that needs the surgery." So why do we, as accomplished professionals, still seek this need for praise and validation? Now, in understanding this, I knew I had to do 2 things. I had to go back to understand a little bit more of the why, and I knew I needed to move forward. Understanding the why meant going back through childhood and understanding all of the different things that I had probably treated in isolation and connecting those together to understand the formative relationships and environment that had created this need for approval. And that's still a bit of a personal journey. But I also knew that self-doubt is something that can cripple. Chipping away at your inner self-confidence is something that's really quite damaging. And I knew I'd been there before, and the road back from that is one that's pretty long and paved with self-doubt. So for me, I had to understand, how do I move forward? Because I don't like feeling stuck. And moving forward meant having a couple of really uncomfortable conversations with other people to understand, where was I in these senior relationships? What role was I playing? Having to put the mirror up to my interactions and understand what was driving this behavior. And I learned quite a few things. I was coming to those conversations with a litany of my achievements. Look at everything I've done. Look at what I'm doing to move the business forward. Because I had experienced this cycle that was a reinforcing cycle of do great things, get recognition. Do more things, get further recognition, be that promotions or whatever. And actually, leadership's not about that. And some of the great conversations that I had brought me to equity and the power of equity in relationships. That actually it wasn't all about me and my need to move things forward. That great relationships have two people in them. And I could say, this is what I want to do, but here's what I expect from you as well. And I had one really impactful conversation with another senior leader. And I started the conversation, here's all the things that I'm doing, and here's what I'm doing to move it forward. And he said to me, do you think I have conversations like this with other senior leaders? Because I don't. And that was a really important moment to realize, sure, what am I doing where I'm placing that need for approval at the center of these conversations, rather than realizing there was an equitable piece to be explored. And in doing that, I started to release the pressure valve of perfection. That need to feel you have to do it all yourself. Maybe it's because you're female, I'm not sure, but that need, that pressure to say, I can do all this and I can be perfect, it started to disappear a little bit. And it started to really help me relax much more into those relationships and conversations. And in doing so, what I learned is that opening yourself up to that sense of imperfection, to the vulnerability that you can bring to those conversations, actually allowed everybody else to be so much more vulnerable. And what I learned through those conversations helped cement the relationships even further. It allowed me to take the spotlight off of me and turn it around to say, what can we do together? How do we drive these businesses forward together, rather than that need to do it all myself? Now, it's been a really interesting road, and I don't think it's anywhere near finished, but I've learned a few things along the way. Opening yourself up to this level of scrutiny is not a bad thing. It actually builds much more connectivity with people than you ever expected. It's been a very interesting road, but it hasn't been lonely. It's actually allowed me to understand what's motivating other people alongside me and build much more authentic relationships. And it's also helped me reframe my own sense of self-belief, because I'm removing that need for perfection. And I've been very fortunate to have some mentors along the way that were really there to pick me up and remind me of my abilities whenever my self-belief was not where it should be. And now it encourages me to do the same for those around me. And I'm struck by a bit of a bigger why. How do we create the environment to empower my own daughters so that they don't find themselves in that same position in the future? And that's maybe a TED Talk for another day. We're still working through that. But I found it a really empowering journey, building real connections and actually driving much more authentic leadership, and giving myself the permission to say, I don't have that need to be perfect. I'm not fully evolved on that journey of self-belief, but actually where I am right now, that's okay. And in doing so, I've inadvertently stopped building my own self-imposed glass ceiling. Thank you.